What happens when Hollywood stops seeing women as stars and starts seeing them as ghosts?
She does care. She loves me. She loves me. Go away, I'm busy.
In the early 1960s, aging actresses were not allowed dignity. They were turned into threats. Forgotten icons were recast as monsters. Their loneliness became suspense. Their rage became horror. These films did not just scare audiences. They punished women for surviving past their youth. Number 10. Whatever Happened to Baby Jane, 1962. Whatever Happened to Baby Jane is not just the foundation of the Psycho-Biddy cycle.
Postman says that's best to do.
It is a public execution of Hollywood nostalgia. The film traps two former child stars inside a decaying mansion and turns their shared past into a weapon. Jane Hudson lives in Arrested Development, clinging to a grotesque parody of childhood fame, while Blanche is imprisoned by both her body and her memories. The house becomes a mausoleum of old applause and resentment. Every room feels heavy with careers that ended too early and lives that lasted too long.
There hasn't been a letter from his office.
Yes, Jane, there has.
Oh, you're a liar. You're just a liar.
The true horror of Baby Jane is not cruelty. It is relevance fading in real time. Jane performs for no one. She sings to mirrors. She rehearses routines that no longer belong to the world outside her walls. Blanche represents a different terror. She was once respected. Now she is invisible. The film never lets the audience forget that both women were once adored. That knowledge makes every act of humiliation sting harder. This is not madness arriving suddenly. It is bitterness fermented over decades. Hollywood audiences understood exactly what they were watching. Two aging women fighting over a spotlight that no longer exists. The film dares viewers to laugh and recoil at the same time. It exposes how fame rots when it is denied an ending. Baby Jane did not just revive careers. It opened the door for an entire genre that treated age as pathology. After this film, the message was clear. If a woman refused to disappear quietly, Hollywood would make her terrifying. Number 9. Hush Hush, Sweet Charlotte, 1964. Hush, Sweet Charlotte transforms Southern Gothic decay into psychological suffocation. Charlotte Hollis is not merely isolated. She is entombed within a past that the town refuses to let die. The plantation is vast but empty. Every corridor echoes with whispers and judgment. The crime that defined Charlotte's youth has followed her into old age like a curse that refuses to loosen its grip.
What if she catches me? Now look, you want to join the spotters, don't you?
Time does not heal in this film, it corrodes. Unlike Baby Jane, this story is less about performance and more about punishment. Charlotte's community has already decided her guilt. Her aging body becomes evidence in itself. She is framed as unstable simply because she has survived too long with the stain of scandal attached. The film lingers on her isolation with cruel patience. Every attempt at companionship turns into betrayal. Even kindness feels staged.
Because you killed Drew. We can't just pretend it never happened.
Trust is presented as a luxury Charlotte no longer deserves. What makes Sweet Charlotte so vicious is its suggestion that society prefers elderly women to remain frozen in their worst moment. Charlotte is not allowed growth or complexity. She must remain the mad relic. The film weaponizes memory itself. Flashbacks invade the present like hallucinations. The past refuses to stay buried. This is horror rooted in social exile. Aging here is not just physical decline. It is being denied the right to redefine yourself. Charlotte is not hunted by a killer. She is hunted by reputation. Number 8. Dead Ringer, 1964. Dead Ringer takes identity anxiety and twists it into a moral trap. The film centers on twin sisters divided by class and opportunity. One is wealthy, the other is trapped in regret. Aging becomes the pressure point that drives the story forward. There is no time left to start over. Youth has already passed. The film suggests that desperation increases as options shrink. That is where violence enters.
Code 3. I'll be right with you.
The act of switching identities is framed as both liberation and damnation. For a brief moment, the illusion of youth returns. Power replaces invisibility. But the cost is immediate and brutal. The film refuses fantasy.
It's lovely, Jim. Much too good for me.
Don't say that.
Aging cannot be undone without consequence. The sister who steals a life discovers that wealth and beauty rot faster when they are stolen rather than earned. Every advantage comes with paranoia. Every luxury feels borrowed. Dead Ringer is less hysterical than its contemporaries but more cynical. It argues that society measures women by what they failed to become. When the window closes, the judgment begins. The horror does not come from madness but from clarity. The character knows exactly what she is doing and why. That awareness makes the ending feel inevitable. The film suggests that in a world obsessed with youth survival itself becomes a crime. Aging women are forced to compete with their own ghosts. Number 7. Straitjacket, 1964. Straitjacket turns motherhood into a crime scene and aging into a permanent state of suspicion.
Well, perhaps he meant he'd stop on his way back.
The film opens with brutality, then leaps forward in time where the true horror quietly waits. A woman released after decades of confinement is returned to domestic life but not to forgiveness. Her age is treated as evidence. Her trauma is treated as instability. Every glance implies danger. Every silence is treated as threat. What makes Straitjacket so unsettling is how completely it denies redemption. The character is never allowed to simply exist.
Oh, shall I wrap them up?
Do you really think I should? Definitely. I think they're lovely.
She is constantly observed by family neighbors and the audience itself. Aging becomes synonymous with damage. The years she lost are not mourned. They are feared. Her identity is frozen at the moment of violence that defined her youth. Time has passed, but judgment has not. The film exploits the anxiety of returning to a world that no longer recognizes you. Domestic spaces feel hostile. Familiar rooms carry suspicion instead of comfort. Even acts of care feel like surveillance. The horror escalates not through gore but through inevitability. Whether she is guilty or not almost becomes irrelevant. Society has already made its decision. Straitjacket argues that once a woman has been labeled dangerous, age only sharpens the label. Survival becomes another form of punishment. Number 6. Lady in a Cage, 1964. Lady in a Cage is one of the most openly cruel entries in the Psycho-Biddy cycle. It strips away melodrama and replaces it with prolonged humiliation. An aging woman becomes physically trapped inside her own home, rendered helpless by technology and circumstance. The elevator is not just a plot device. It is a metaphor for social immobility. Once she stops moving forward, the world closes in. The true terror arrives when outsiders enter the space. They do not see a person. They see opportunity. Age here equals vulnerability without protection. The film refuses to soften its gaze. There is no safety net.
What?
Drive very, very carefully, love.
The woman's wealth, education, and status offer no shield once her body fails her. The home transforms into a cage not because of walls, but because of indifference. What makes the film especially disturbing is its implication that society views elderly suffering as acceptable collateral.
Right now, I am all animal.
Violence escalates while authority remains distant. The woman's screams are ignored. Aging becomes synonymous with disposability. Lady in a Cage is not subtle. It is an indictment. The horror is not who attacks her, but how easily the world allows it to happen. The film suggests that once a woman loses mobility, she also loses protection. Number 5. The Nanny, 1965.
She does care. She loves me.
She loves me. Go away, I'm busy.
The Nanny is quieter than its contemporaries, but far more intimate. It frames aging as emotional suffocation rather than spectacle. The central figure operates within domestic intimacy, using care as control. The home is not a prison of isolation but of proximity. The terror comes from being watched constantly under the guise of love. Aging in The Nanny is linked to resentment that has never been acknowledged. Years of service devotion and emotional labor curdle into fixation. The character is defined entirely by her role. She has no life outside it. That erasure becomes dangerous. Control replaces affection.
I'm taking Master Joey an extra pillow.
Protection turns into manipulation. The film suggests that when identity is denied long enough, it mutates. What makes The Nanny especially effective is its ambiguity. The horror does not rely on shock. It grows through discomfort. The audience is forced to question loyalty, memory, and guilt. Aging here is not explosive. It is corrosive. The film argues that society creates monsters by refusing to recognize the emotional lives of those who age in service roles. When invisibility becomes permanent, it demands attention by any means necessary. Number 4. Die, Die, My Darling, 1965. Die, Die, My Darling turns grief into tyranny and aging into moral domination. The horror does not erupt through violence but through suffocation. An older woman rules her home with religious absolutism, using faith as both shield and weapon. Youth is treated as corruption. Desire is treated as sin. The house becomes a pressure chamber where ideology replaces love. Aging here is portrayed as rigidity rather than decline. The character has survived loss by petrifying herself emotionally. Nothing is allowed to change. The younger woman trapped inside the house is not threatened by madness but by certainty. Every rule is justified. Every cruelty is framed as righteousness. The film suggests that when age clings to control, it becomes monstrous. What makes the film so unsettling is its calm. There is no hysteria, only conviction. The older woman believes she is right. That belief makes resistance feel futile. Die? My Darling presents aging as a state where grief has hardened into authority. The terror lies in how easily that authority is accepted. The film implies that society often excuses cruelty when it wears the mask of tradition. Number 3. The Anniversary, 1968. The Anniversary is a masterclass in emotional warfare. The horror is conversational. A domineering matriarch orchestrates humiliation with surgical precision. Her age gives her power, not weakness. She controls her adult children through guilt ritual and fear of abandonment. The house becomes a courtroom where everyone is always on trial. Unlike earlier films, this character is not isolated.
Them boxes he has all muscles.
Shut her up, Tom, please.
She is surrounded by family yet completely untouchable. Aging grants her immunity. Her cruelty is dismissed as personality. The film exposes how society tolerates emotional abuse when it comes from elders. Respect becomes a shield against accountability. The true horror of The Anniversary is recognition. Many viewers see fragments of real family dynamics reflected on screen. The film argues that aging does not soften power, it refines it. Manipulation becomes more efficient with time. This is not madness, it is mastery. The matriarch understands every weakness and exploits them without raising her voice. The terror comes from how normalized this behavior feels. Number 2. Whoever Slew Auntie Roo, 1972. Whoever Slew Auntie Roo transforms fairy tale imagery into grief-soaked nightmare. The character at its center is not evil by design. She is desperate. Aging is framed as emotional starvation. Loneliness becomes the engine of horror. Loss has hollowed her out, leaving fantasy to fill the void. The film blends childlike whimsy with psychological decay. Candy-colored visuals mask a deeply unsettling story about obsession and denial. Auntie Roo attempts to preserve innocence by force. Youth becomes something to possess rather than nurture. Her age isolates her from reality. She lives inside rituals and performances that no longer connect to the outside world. What makes the film especially tragic is its empathy. The audience understands the pain even as it recoils from the actions. Aging here is portrayed as abandonment by society. When grief is ignored, it mutates into fixation. Whoever Slew Auntie Roo suggests that horror emerges when emotional needs are left to rot in isolation. Number 1. Who is Afraid of Virginia Woolf, 1966. Who is Afraid of Virginia Woolf is not marketed as horror, but it is the most psychologically brutal film in the entire cycle. Aging is depicted as emotional warfare sharpened by disappointment. The marriage at the center of the film is a battlefield littered with broken ambitions and invented illusions. The characters use cruelty as survival. The horror comes from language. Every conversation cuts deeper than violence. The characters are trapped not by walls but by time. Youth is gone. Dreams have failed. What remains is performance. Aging becomes a reckoning that cannot be avoided. The film refuses escape. There is no madness to blame, only awareness. This film earns its place at number 1 because it exposes the raw core of the Psycho-Biddy genre. The fear is not aging itself. It is being forced to confront who you have become when the future closes. Virginia Woolf strips away genre trappings and leaves nothing but psychological truth. It is aging without disguise. That honesty is terrifying. These films did not fear monsters or ghosts. They feared time. Hollywood turned aging women into horror because it did not know how to let them exist without punishment. The Psycho-Biddy cycle reveals more about the culture that created it than the characters it condemned. These films endure because the fear they expose has never fully disappeared.